I'm going to turn you bastards down because I'm going to get on the radio.
Good evening. Thank you for coming to the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net. My name is Nick, call signs KN6DAL, and we will get this thing kicked off.
Good evening, W6 VVR repeater. This is KJ6F.
He can't ever mute his mic. It's hilarious. All right, so we are limited a little bit on connections tonight. The W6VVR node link is down, so we currently aren't able to connect to that. But nonetheless, I still want to take a moment and thank the W6VVR repeater and the Vaca Valley Radio Club for the use of the repeater when it's working. Also, the Freestar Network for the use of their repeaters and digital connections. And then a huge thanks to Mike, WG5EEK, and Greg, KN6KIE, for their continued networking efforts.
Is stuff supposed to be coming out of this, out of the YSF reflector, Nick?
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything, Nick.
Well, poopy.
Okay,
on,
pause.
hammer,
I can check this out. We'll be right back.
Ham harder, bro.
I can fix this.
You sure?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Some days. Gotta ham harder, bro. Ham harder.
All right, KN6DAL running test. Any audio come back? I got the thumbs up. That's good enough, right? All right.
Yeah, you're good.
Sound good, K7CBL.
All right, let's take this from the top. Welcome. My name is Nick, KN6DAL, and you are listening to the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net. We want to thank the owners and supporters of the W6VVR repeater and the Vaca Valley Radio Club, the Freestar Network, for the use of their repeaters and digital connections, and a big thanks to WG5EEK, Mike, and Greg, KN6KIE, for their continued networking efforts. As a footnote, those of you on YouTube already heard this, but we aren't able to connect to the W6VVR repeater tonight due to some connection issues, so hopefully we'll have that cleared up by next week. And before we get going too far, we want to just make a check and see if there's any priority traffic. If there is at any point during the anti-net, you can say break with your call sign and we will clear the frequency for you. Is there any priority traffic at this time? Thought I heard something there.
Somebody keyed the mic on the VVR, but I don't think would that have come through? That wouldn't have come through.
No.
Okay.
The 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net meets every Wednesday at 8 p.m., 3 a.m. UTC on the W6VVR repeater when it's working. Also, we provide an Echo Leak connection, which is W6VVR-R. That's also down tonight. And All-Star Node connection 512342. DMR Talk Group 3174117, YSF Reflector 50462, and Freestar All-Star links are 2195 and 53375. And just as a reminder, the 2 Meter Crew the 2 Meter Crew is not an actual club. We're just a group of ham enthusiasts. We're learning and enjoying all things ham related. There's no dues or fees or charges to be a 2 Meter Crew member. For more information, you can visit our Facebook at 2MC, or you can join our Discord group. You can also check out www.2metercrew.net for more information if you'd like links to any of those features. And I suspect that traffic across the repeater systems and the digital connections might be a little bit low because we did lose some connections due to some issues this last week. But nonetheless, I want to just take a minute and see if there's any new ham radio operators or people that maybe just recently upgraded their license or just joining us for the first time. If that's you, come on in and say hi. Please come now. All right, and we might need to subscribe to a little bit of help for those of you that are watching on YouTube. If you want to play along, put your answer in the chat. I'm going to ask a trivia question, and we'll see what everybody thinks. In what year was the 20-meter band authorized for use in amateur radio? So again, the question is, in what year was the 20-meter band authorized for amateur radio use? A, 1914, B, 1919, C, 1921, and D, 1924. So don't cheat. Give it your best shot. We'll get back with the answer.
Hey, Nick, we're still having issues with the reflector. Rick and I think wherever he is up north where you are can't get in either.
Yep, I see the comment. Let's just pull up.
We could troubleshoot for a minute.
I might as well screen share what I'm troubleshooting, right? So everybody else
Yeah,
can see.
Yeah, why not?
Extra content.
Content.
You gotta,
All right,
show,
yeah,
you
well-
gotta show them the magic that happens.
We got a little shout out to KN6BXX. This is a 8 o'clock time frame is a little late for him and his 3:30 wake up time before work. So Michael from our Carmichael, good to see you out there. This is W6AEF. I don't know if we're on the air or not, but IDing is important. And it's been a while since I've been on, but Michael and the others, thanks for coming out tonight.
How fast can Nick fix an all-star node?
Well, not
Get
very
the
fast
elevator
when I
music
use.
going?
So that's another learning curve that you have. It's so hard for me to get past is when you're in this screen. I'll have to reshare it here. The people on YouTube can't see it. Hold on.
Yeah. I think we need elevator music
There
for
we
you,
go.
Nick.
So the when you go into this screen and you log in, you cannot use your numbers on the side. You have to use the numbers on the top, and I'm terrible about that. So I end up booting myself out every time.
You can configure Putty to recognize those keys.
Yeah.
I just did it a second time right there. Did you see that?
Yep.
Nick, ham harder, man.
I'm hamming as hard as I can.
The conversation could devolve very quickly.
Hey, Nick, you want some elevator music with that?
You could put a little music in the background. That'd be nice. Yes. You guys are awesome.
Stand by, Nick's trying to fix ham radio.
Please wait. I'm trying to fix the internet.
Please hold for the next available agent.
I'm digging the elevator music. All right, and the colors, the
Oh, yeah, I
LED
gotta love it.
colors.
Well, I've got an even better one, but I don't know how many people would recognize it. This is a 10-hour loop.
This is so bad. It's a 10-hour loop.
We gotta listen to all of it, all 10 hours.
Hey Nick, what program is this? This DOS-looking kind of interface.
Putty.
It's a secure interface to. It's a serial interface basically.
Oh, I've got one right here too. I've got Putty open on my Pi webcam. The security camera using a Raspberry Pi and a USB webcam. It's very hard for Nick to focus.
It said that the bridge is running, so I'm not sure what the problem is.
I think I know what you need, Nick. I think you need to make this like 2009 YouTube quality where like you pull up a text document and start typing what you're doing instead of using your voice.
Oh, like what's
Today
that
we
dragon? Yeah.
Today we'll be installing Fanboy.
I'm surprised he can't get on. Have either of you tried it?
I don't know how.
I can try DMR. Not YSF though.
No, you can do YSF. You've got your.
My buddy in chat just said go analog.
This is why analog's king.
Yeah.
Where's Kellen? Because he would be raving about this right now.
Oh, Kellen.
Don't need no digital doodads.
Once again, Kellen loves FT8, man.
Yeah, he does. He just digs it. He loves it when
Analog
somebody else
is
is
king.
doing it.
Alright, we gotta switch this up. Can't keep listening to elevator.
We need
music.
something.
We
We need something better.
We gotta go to Cisco hold music. Nick's calling Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
All right, Nick.
Mike!
That came through. Nick, that came through.
Yeah.
That was good. I got you.
Yeah.
Are we fixed?
Yeah, but for some reason it's not keen. And I hear you, but not on IAX. Oh, what is that, Connor? That is
Cisco hold music.
yeah, that's terrible.
You think that's bad? Hold on.
How come you have hold music in your playlist? Where does that come
This
from?
is my soundboard.
Oh, geez.
Here we go. This is a better one. This is better hold music. It's just painful.
Oh, it sounds like Ocean's 11 music.
This is a 3CX default hold.
Hey, I'm gonna step away for a sec.
Imagine just being keyed on the air and this is all people hear. I mean, it's like super illegal, but like imagine all they hear. We're just on hold and this is all they hear on the radio.
They're gonna shut me down.
We're gonna put the repeaters on hold, stand by.
Bugs said Spectrum hold music.
Oh. Hold on, I got that. Funny enough, I have it.
So now it won't let me run IAX RPT.
You know what's funny is I could actually genuinely like call Comcast right now and be on hold long enough for us what we need to do and then just hang up and they still wouldn't pick up. I still wouldn't have got to anybody.
Well, maybe call an audible, just roll the Zoom, come in and just good old-fashioned face-to-face conversations.
Yeah.
Do what you can do.
So what I'm looking for right now is Connor. It won't let me.
Yeah.
It won't let me pull up IAX RPT, and start that. Here we go. Never mind. In task.
I
think the All-Star node just went like.
Dong.
Oh man, I get that all the time on my phone. The Taco Bell, app, new special.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
Oh my god. My buddy who's in Florida says that 75% of radio towers are analog and or offline.
Yeah. See, you're coming through, but you're not coming back, which is really weird.
That made
Yeah, I don't hear it. I don't hear.
Oh, you don't hear it through Zoom?
No.
No. I'm not hearing it through my computer, and it's not keying up my All-Star node. So he's connected to the YSF reflector.
Are you connected from YSF to All-Star?
Yes.
Rick just said, YouTube is working fine, but I still can't connect to YSF 50462.
Yeah, he can connect to it, but it's just not linking to us. It's just not connecting through IAX RPT.
Where's Mike?
Yeah, where's Mike in the comments, please?
Call Mike. Someone call Mike. We know he's listening.
Yeah, but
we know he's there.
It's like 11 o'clock at night. We wake him up. Hey.
Hey, Mike.
We know you're on the other side of the country, but that's not super relevant right now.
Oh, jeez.
All right, ladies, I'm back.
All right.
Okay, we still haven't fixed it yet. We moved on from hold music.
Yeah, let's carry on. We're just going to we're just going to go ahead and have to do it without the link from the reflectors either.
Is DMR working? Do we know if DMR is working on your? Here, I can.
No, because they're bridged.
That's right. Wait, but it does. We don't know if DMR works. Right? Because aren't you just bridging YSF to your All-Star node?
YSF and DMR are hard linked. They're bridged through Brandmeister.
Right, yeah. That's
and
right. Yeah, I forgot about
DMR is essentially connected to All-Star when I select the pseudo node to be connected. And then, but they're all connected. They're all showing connected. Like when I come across.
Huh. You want me to try coming in?
KN6 DAL testing. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's why P25, man. Just do P25. You got no problems like this.
Oh, jeez, here we go.
You knew it was coming. I don't know why you're acting surprised.
Here we go.
Here it comes.
So, all right, let's carry on with the presentation just without the repeaters or the digital connections because nothing seems to be working. So, long story short, it's a catastrophe, but that's okay. We have Jim here, KJ6FNP, and he has actually prepared something that's been pretty interesting for me for quite a while, and it's related to what's that, Jim? Jim?
Yes, sir.
Can he hear us? Okay, he's here.
Yeah, I had to switch audio off a speaker because my granddaughter's going to bed downstairs and the subwoofer booms down there.
See, it's
with
not
all
just
our
me.
deep voices.
It's not just me. It's somebody else too. Audio problems for everyone. But nonetheless,
me.
without further ado, I'll pass it over to Jim. He's got a great presentation on the Aredn network, and this has been something that's been pretty interesting to me for a while. So I'll let you take it away, Jim.
Okay, cool. As Nick said, thank you. This is KJ6FMP, Jim in Antioch. On your screen, maybe in your ears, coming to you to talk with you about Aredn, AREDN, which is the Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network. You might have heard about it, you might not have. It's really cool technology because it's basically repurposing Wi-Fi transceivers and antennas to use amateur authorized bands, Part 97 authorized band parts of the 5.8 gigahertz frequency band and the 2.4. So those are the two, 802.11a, C, N, G, all the different letters. Those are the frequencies that most people's Wi-Fi works on. This is taking not your Wi-Fi router at home, like the one you can't see behind me, but taking equipment that is designed to run on regular Wi-Fi frequencies and channels, reflashing the firmware on it so that you can change the area, how much frequency you have available to you, and repurposing that equipment specific for this technology or this purpose. And what is the emergency data network that it's all about is that just like many other reasons that people get into, one of the primary reasons people get into amateur radio in the first place is emergency communications and being able to support your community with your amateur radios. And so this is just another avenue for amateur radio folks to get involved in a different kind of emergency network. It's not so much just radios talking to each other, but if you think about during an emergency, the old way, you use the FEMA Incident Command System, Form 213, to write a message, and you hand it to somebody, and it gets transmitted, over audio on an amateur radio to another receiving end, and they transcribe it into a form, and then they take that message and literally hand deliver it to somebody in a disaster zone or whatever. Sometimes that's the only way you can relay messages. It works. It's very effective. It's very reliable. It's very slow, and it's not very flexible. So the AREDN, Aredn network idea, takes these pieces of equipment, repurposes them so that you can use them, and you use it. It's a digital link between two nodes. Everything's a node in these configurations. And I'm going to give you guys a link. If somebody could put it into the YouTube, because I don't have the YouTube up. Let me put a link in the chat for the Zoom, and if somebody could transcribe that, that would be great, because
Got it.
This is going to be the one-stop shopping for all things Aredn related. Where'd it go?
Yeah, get it out there, Jim, and I'll post it to the chat.
Okay. Yeah.
I can screen share it too.
Oh, okay. That'd be good. Let me get to the right spot though. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to give you the link to the documentation. My Zoom there. Oh, it went to a little tiny thing in the corner. All right, so this is the documentation part of the site. But if you go to, I meant to get the other one. Hold on. One more. Nope, that one didn't. Okay, well, let's get back to this. That's the documentation site. This basically has everything under the sun that you can think of. And Nick, if you want to put that up there on the screen, that'd be fine. But basically, I'm just going to go through the menu on the left on a couple of items. I'm not going to beat down into the details because there's so much. It's kind of overwhelming. If you go, there's 100 rabbit holes you'll run into. But generally, the Aredn Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network is something that we can use for ad hoc emergency network if we need to make a link all of a sudden because of an emergency. A lot of people have these things stood up and they're pointed to other links, other nodes, and they're there all the time and they're constantly using them. So it really is, it's so simple that it's kind of underwhelming but overwhelming at the same time. You're like, it can't be that easy, but it really is that easy. Also, I want to say that Ham Radio Crash Course, whatever the guy's name is, he did a thing in the beginning of May about Aredn, and he set it up at his house and he fiddled around with it and gave some examples. The biggest thing I can say safety-wise with regards to this stuff, these are very sharp beam signals that are going to be transmitted out of those dishes. You do not want to put your hand in front of it, much less stand in front of it. And you need to make sure that while you're working on it, and if it's active, you don't point it at somebody's house or whatever accidentally even. You have to be very careful with it because that's some concentrated radio waves that you would be pointing around. So you want to make sure you're very careful about that for your own personal safety as well as those around you. Okay, that's my safety note. So first things first, according to the documentation site, is selecting radio hardware. And so, okay, good, you got it up there. So if you go to selecting radio hardware, I lost my link. There we go. It starts to tell you about, the benefits of using this. And down at the bottom of that first big paragraph is a link that says supported platform matrix. Rather than trying to figure out what kind of stuff do I need, this tells you everything that you need. So if you click on that link, just as an example, the supported platform matrix, if you click on that, you see where I'm at, Nick?
I don't.
Okay, that's your screen that's shared, right?
Yes.
On the left-hand side menu, click on selecting radio hardware.
There we go.
Yeah, and then right there, no, don't scroll, stay up at the top. Then at the first paragraph, go to supported platform matrix at the bottom of that paragraph, that link. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. So now you can scroll down a little bit on this. So this basically is a list of stuff that has been tested. They've got the firmware, the software patches to downgrade or laterally change the firmware for all these devices. And they've tested all this stuff, the stuff that's in solid green. The light green is, I don't know exactly what it means. There's a key at the bottom. It's not really important. You can look at it later. But these are the 4 frequency bands that you could do this stuff. And as you can see, 2.4 gigahertz and 5.8 gigahertz are the 2 most popular ones. And that's the Wi-Fi stuff. 900 megahertz is also a cellular band. Whoa.
My bad.
What was that? Okay. I'm going to have a seizure, man.
Go ahead.
And I don't know what 3 gigahertz is. I forgot what that was, but there's clearly practically nothing there. that's there. So if you go to any piece of equipment, let's look in the 5.8 gigahertz column there, Nick, and just click on the first one, the RBLHG, way over to the right. Oh, well, okay, 2.4. It takes you right to the piece of equipment.
Oh, cool.
So this one's about $100. That is your antenna and your transceiver all in one. It uses a power over Ethernet type of connector because you don't need to have a separate power supply. It gets its power from the power over Ethernet. You need a power over Ethernet hub somewhere in the vicinity of this thing. They don't make those all weather, so it has to be inside. just to be clear about that. And then you can hook your laptop to that and reprogram this to work in the correct batch of frequencies that's amateur authorized by the FCC. And there's a whole bunch of other pieces of equipment. If you go back to that chart there, the chart of equipment, go one more back if you could. There we go. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. And if you want to do 5.8 gigahertz or 2.4, you can pick what you want. And none of it's really horribly expensive. You can get a pair of those they all look sort of the same because they are kind of sort of the same. That's the same brand. Now this one is a smaller one. It's lower output. It's directional, but it's not very easy to aim it. So this would be like if you're going to do a small mesh network in your neighborhood, where you're not going 30 miles across a valley or something like that, or up a hill, to a mountain 40 miles away. So this piece of equipment is good for that. But so that I'm not going to go too much more into equipment. There's different brands. There's Microtic, whatever. There's Ubiquity. There's a whole pile of that stuff. There's TP-Link and GL-iNet. So you're not going to see any Cisco gear on here or anything like that. Their stuff's pretty well locked down as far as doing the firmware. And all of these will require some manipulation of the firmware on the transceivers. All right, so back to the ArdenNet documentation site. So
hey, so Jim, hey, real quick,
yes,
you can't just go. I was looking at the comments here. You can't. Well, maybe WG5EEK or Greg, they could go to a thrift store, buy some Wi-Fi gear, start messing with stuff, and do something like that. But this is all you can't. It's very specific equipment, like you just walked through, right? You can't cross-pollinate things per se.
Correct. You can't, because you have to reflash the firmware on those devices. And this ArdenMesh.org, or I don't know if it's .org, but ArdenMesh folks that have designed this they're the ones who figured out the software to reflash those devices, and they worked with the manufacturers to make sure that it was going to be okay to do it, and they actually worked with the guys that make those different systems, so it's going to be solid, it's going to be rock solid, and it's not going to be some sort of a hack job.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, that's a good question though, and that's what I thought at first. I was like, I could, I probably got some crap lying around here. I could make that work. And as I read through the documentation when I first became interested in it, I was like, okay, that's not gonna work. But it's relatively inexpensive. I mean, if you think about it, you got to buy at least one transceiver, dish kind of a thing, under $100. A power over Ethernet, a little 5 or 6 port hub. Those are pretty cheap. They're probably $40 or $50. You've already probably got a computer or two. You need some Ethernet cables. And then you go to back to this site, and you can download the software to flash the devices and get them up and running. They've got all the instructions. If you just walk through this stuff on this one website, you will be able to set it up. It's very clear. It's super well organized website. They've done a masterful job on putting this I've not seen level or quality of documentation like this in a long time. So this is the single source to go to. There's instructions on downloading the firmware, and they tell you stable releases and nightly build releases. So they are always updating it on different things when it's needed, or If hardware changes a little bit in the manufacturing process, they capture that. And then how to install the firmware, that's the next thing down on those menus. That tells you, and it shows you a pretty little picture of a laptop. Let's see, can you get on the installing Aredn firmware link there? It's about 2 menu items down from where we're at now. Up to the top there. There you go. So there's
It's
a
a
little
dumb
diagram.
switch. I need one of those.
Yeah. So that's just a regular, hub, right? And you got your laptop with the firmware image on it. You get it to the hub. You connect a little PoE device in between, which is power over Ethernet, and it goes to your node, which is that dish that we looked at earlier. And you basically upload that firmware to it, and flash it over. And now it's configured to use the authorized part of the 5.8 or 2.4 gigahertz frequency that Part 97 authorizes us to use. So we're not doing any out of bounds goofy stuff. We're making sure we're not stomping on people's Wi-Fi or things like that. We're staying away from those frequencies that those channels are programmed to for Wi-Fi. All right, and then it goes through the basic radio setup after that. Down the menu, you can see all the stuff, troubleshooting tips, Ubiquity, all the different brands on how you do the firmware. And then just on down the line, node status display, mesh status display, it goes, and then configuration deep dive is exactly what it says. It's a really deep dive into configuring stuff. If you really like to get into all the bits and bytes and all the little niggly things that are out there that you can do configuration wise, that's the place to go. Then they talk about network design, because you can have a node at your house, but you want to connect it to something. And if you want to build a neighborhood network with your neighbors or whatever, or a community network a little bit bigger than that, or even citywide or countywide, this is the area where you would go on figuring out how to design that, and the spec. There's all that stuff about the topologies and the spectrum characteristics, planning the channels, modeling the network, so you can get pretty elaborate. Here's a really good example of how the Aredn mesh has worked. They use it to support the Marine Corps Marathon every year now since 2019. So for the last couple of years, they've used an Aredn mesh instead of a bunch of amateur radio guys with handheld radios, talking and dictating stuff about, the different runners and stuff. And in fact, the Marine Corps uses it as a mass casualty incident exercise, a planned mass casualty incident exercise. And so they invite doctors and interns and stuff like that to come actually experience a mass casualty incident, because there are a lot of people that suffer injuries. You've got thousands of people running in this marathon, and a lot of people, they call it the every man's marathon, because they don't have the very, very high standards to get in to the Boston or the New York marathon and things like that. So this is sort of their gateway into practicing at a world-class marathon, but not with the rigorous requirements that you need to get into those huge famous ones. So it's probably the third or fourth biggest one on the East Coast. And then what's really cool is, if you can scroll down, Nick, on the left-hand menu there, under Applications and Services, yeah, hit that first one, Aredn Services Overview. So this is pretty handy, because these are all the kind of things that you can run over this network. And if you scroll down, you can see a little example of how this mesh network would be configured. There's a diagram. There you go. That's it. And so you can have primary and standby servers. These are the clients. There's the mesh in between all the little dots. The red dot is usually what's called a backbone. And I'm not going to go into all how backbones and networks all go. That would get too deep. But the next item down on the left-hand menu is chat programs. Click on that. There we go. These are all different chat programs that you can run specifically over an Aredn mesh network. And so with these ones that people stand up and link into a mesh network, on their own, and they're permanent. They're just sitting there pointed at one of the nodes, and so they can use any of these things. They've got Jabber in there. They've got IRC, Internet Relay Chat, Mesh Chat. It was specific to the mesh. There's all sorts of ways that you can do chat. Next thing down is got email programs there on the left. There's a bunch of email you can run email. You can send email all over the place. Okay. The next one is file sharing. You can send files across this mesh network. So if you want to send, audio files, video files, pictures, documents, all those sorts of things, you can use FTP. There's a web-based service to do that. So there's ways to get, digital assets, if you want to call them that, across to people. And what's really cool is the VoIP audio, which is the next one. You can actually, there's a PBX application that you can run on a computer and actually run basically a PBX, the public broad, what's it called? Exchange, basically. It's a phone exchange. Just like you have a PBX at work, it's the same thing. You can actually run PBX across it. So it is very powerful with the things that you can do with it. But what's really cool is you can just do simple bonehead stuff like chat, if that's what you want to do. So, for Kellen, it's digital, so it's not going to work. So goodbye. But for most people that are delving into digital realms, people are doing FT8 and they're doing all the other kind of digital modes. This is just, another thing that you can do. That is an amateur radio. So you have to, when you set up a node, the only identification you have to put on the node is, guess what? Your call sign. So if I had a node up right now, the minimum required notification or notice on the name of it has to be my call sign KJ6FNP. So you can put other details in it. They have a recommendation on the things to put in there so people can find out what kind of node you're on, if it's an omnidirectional or if it's a beam antenna and stuff like that. You can put all kinds of information. There's some pictures of people's got their video cameras.
They've got surveillance on it, yeah.
Surveillance, all kinds of stuff. It's just really cool. You've even got computer-aided dispatching. So you can actually run a dispatch center, dispatch out from this network. So they've come up with just a bazillion different ways to use this. And a lot of this is bigger and more complex than we would probably be interested as individual amateurs. But the whole reason I got interested in this was because of more of the community aspect of it. And there are people around here have nodes around here where I live. But that's a great map right there. That shows that's thought down in Los Angeles. They have I forget the call sign of who runs this thing, but so all those lines and all those dots represent the different frequencies. So the purple dots are the probably, what is that, 2 gigahertz, 2.4. The blue dots are the 3.5s, and the orange ones are the 5.8 gigahertz nodes that are out there. And you can see that little pop-up flag, K6AM, whatever it says. So it tells you something about it. Now you know who it is. You can go to QRZ, look that person up, and say, hey man, I want to, where is your node exactly? Because I want to point my node over to it. GPS tracking service. There's just so much you can do with it. It's pretty crazy. But I just wanted to kind of talk through it real quick and let everybody know sort of what it is, what it's not. And it's more what it is than what it's not. It is not, getting on a mic or anything like that. But shoot, you can get on the phone over this mesh network and talk to people. And you can even get on the phone and dial a landline number and connect to that through some of this stuff. So, it's kind of like Google Voice on steroids using authorized amateur radio frequencies.
All right. So anybody in the chat here have any questions? Or if there's any questions, you can post them on the YouTube chat as well. I'm curious, what do you think the future of this looks like, Jim? What do you think? How do you think this integrates into what we do? I mean, there's so many digital aspects to ham radio already. Do you think that as this becomes, because I think it'll get more popular, but as it gets more popular, maybe the price point will become that something that is easier to get a hold of to where more people do it? Or do you see this like blowing up into where we have a full, networked internet service amongst amateur radio operators? What do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. So that's interesting. You mentioned the internet because I deliberately didn't talk about that. That you can, of course, have your node hooked up to the internet, and you could, that people could get on the internet that way. But there's so many other people out there that if you don't need to be on the internet to actually use it. If this is something that is completely decoupled from the dependency, of the internet, and so being that it's an emergency data network, it's oriented towards how can we provide services when we're possibly in a grid down or a limited grid situation. So it could be earthquakes, it could be storms, it could be whatever it is that could cause that to happen. And so where do I see it? Price point, I think it's pretty dang cheap for some of these transceiver antenna combos. It's not that expensive entry point. If you think about what you're getting for $100 for an antenna for a good one, one of those beam ones, and power over Ethernet, little, $40 hub, under $200, and you're set and good to go. And you got to mount the antenna somewhere clearly. So you might need some pipe or something like that. But I think you could probably scrounge that stuff up. So I don't think it's terribly expensive. And then where do I see it going? Overall, and it's getting more popular because of all the applications that you can run on it. And I think it's pretty dang mature. It's fairly new. I couldn't really find out exactly when it became a thing, the Aredn net specifically, of exactly when the whole thing got like there's a trademark. There's a little circle R after Aredn. So they've trademarked it, and but I don't know when that happened. But I would say, when Wi-Fi started, and then there was all these other, Wi-Fi transceivers, the beam ones especially, you see them plastered, there's all these little blisters all over buildings now. So sometimes companies have to, put their employees in 6 or 7 different buildings across a city, and they can't get contiguous building space nearby. So one of the solutions is you could run dark fiber under the street. That's very expensive. You could, go into, some sort of an internet type of a hub and connect your buildings that way. That's very expensive. You pop a few of these few $100s worth of beam antennas, you point them to each other, you make your own little mesh network between everybody. And when you do it that way, you don't have to do the amateur radio part of it. In fact, you don't want to. They would use the regular Wi-Fi frequencies that are available and already set up in the firmware. So this is something that's been exploding as far as just to build a data network without the massive expense of physically connecting the buildings. And so I think it's already blown up in a lot of ways. As far as amateurs are concerned, I see it more as a community level type of a thing. And then your ability to be in a community, but linked to something far enough away outside of, maybe you're in the disaster zone. This could be a way that you could be reporting out information besides regular, over the regular antennas.
Right. There was a comment in the chat of, there was a couple good comments here, but the first one was, what 2.4 gigahertz radios are there to buy right now?
It's on that list, on that Aredn mesh list for selecting the hardware.
Right.
Yeah, that's you have to buy one of those if you want it to work with Aredn, because you're going to have to reflash the firmware on whatever you get. And those are the only ones that the Aredn folks have actually worked with the manufacturers to get the software to do that. So I don't know what's on the list, but those 4 or 5 brands are the ones that make that and have worked with the Aredn folks to get it all set up so you can do that and use it with your amateur radio license legally, compliant with all the FCC regulations, and not trounce on the Wi-Fi stuff.
So I see the list for the supported platforms. I'm just looking for the radios themselves.
You either get, so you can get a transceiver. There is a transceiver on there. I think there's an M2 something or other. I forget that. I don't remember what brand it is, but you can get that and then have an omnidirectional antenna also. So you don't have to have a beam antenna, and
Right.
it's a little less expensive that way. But those items are listed in there as well. You just have to click on them and look at them.
Okay.
I don't know all the pieces that they have authorized.
Well, cool. I opened up the Zoom chat. It looks like we got Rick made it in here, and anybody
here?
else that wants to jump in and say hi is welcome to come by. Rick, you had made a comment about $100 gets the antenna and the transceiver. You want to comment on that?
Yes, I think that was mentioned. That $100 is the antenna and a transceiver mounted on the antenna. So that's just everything you need, pretty much. Well, most of what you need.
Yeah, that's the main chunk that you need because that's the thing that gets you into the mesh network. Really, after that, all you need is a PoE hub, a power over Ethernet hub that delivers the power to the transceiver antenna combination, and then you need a computer hooked up to that hub so that you can type your chats and use those applications.
And then somewhere to point it, right? You got to point it to something, right?
Yeah,
that's the other kind of
and there's
key piece.
A whole nother website. Let me find that.
I've got a map up right now, and I'm trying to figure out what's around me. You did a fantastic
That was
job.
awesome.
I was reading some of the stuff on the internet about Aredn, and my head just started to spin. And so, you dumbed it down perfect for me. So I appreciate your delivery this evening. Yeah.
That's here we go. I got the map there. I'm gonna put that in the Zoom chat as well. So that should get you a map, and I probably will put you on top of California. You'll see the Bay Area, but if you zoom out on that map, it's nationwide. You can find mesh networks all over the place, even up in Alaska, out in Hawaii, down in Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, or in Nicaragua. I'm not sure what country that is. Europe's got a good smattering of those. I mean, the United States is just covered with them. But it's pretty good. If you want to go to Montana, there's a bunch of them there around the capital. There's even a few up where I'm planning on going up to, is up outside of Missoula. So there's nodes all over the place. They're farther apart when you get into those areas, but nonetheless, it's pretty incredible how wide. So you can see how popular it is. Just the fact that that's there, and that much coverage.
Is there a place that
for about 2 years there has been work going in on Aredn here in Spokane, and it was just announced a week or two ago that the Washington State is providing grant money and the county is asking us to switch over. And I don't know all the politics behind it because AREDN, the E is emergency, and it's actually for Aries and WinLink and message traffic and all that stuff. And why our state said go with HamWAN, which I don't know a lot about either one, but HamWAN, I get the feeling, is more the hobbyist. They'll do anything over it, the mix and match equipment and stuff like that. This one seemed much more serious and into emergency, AREDN. And I don't know why we're switching over, but it didn't seem to make sense to me.
It's very enterprise level stuff, though. Big networks. There's a lot of distinct advantages because it is digital, and the things that you can run across those networks, right? So if, for instance, if some sheriff's department lost their phones, they could actually run VoIP over this thing or a PBX over that thing, and it's just the amount of applications that are available, I think, it's not something like, oh, my buddy works at Cisco and we're going to buy all their Aredn stuff, because Cisco doesn't make any stuff that works on Aredn. Literally that list of those manufacturers and those products that are in that list that we showed earlier, that's it. That's what you got to buy. So even, the Marine Corps with their big Aredn network that they put together for their marathon every year for the last 3 years, it's the same stuff that you and I would go buy. So I think the price is right. The applications are broad and deep, and there are a lot of applications that they would love to have for a backup or for a seriously large, widespread type of an outage that could be overcome with of course if it was going to run for days, they would need generators and stuff like that for power, but the rest of the equipment, they already have all those generators, so it's not a big leap for them to start saying, hey, we really want to move in this direction.
We have actually shown, by the way, proof of the concept of putting a camera up on one of our club mountaintop repeaters and having essentially an HD quality live camera looking out on a prairie, that a large area that's really fire prone. And when we told the county, yeah, so if the internet and everything else is out, we could still get you a picture of that area. They just thought that was great, but
Yeah.
now we're going to be rethinking that.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that is great. And the fact that, you guys let them know that was available and that's the whole idea of amateurs being, it's still Aredn, it's amateur radio, meaning what they really mean is it's the amateur radio frequencies that are authorized, right? But that also means that amateur radio operators are the ones who have to do this, or the county and all the entities that are going to run mesh networks will go and get their licenses for their nodes and things like that. But ultimately, single independent little guys like me can participate in supporting an emergency situation, all the way up to like what you said, your club has a camera up there, and that's a possibility. So it runs the gamut of the capabilities that become available to the government agencies, because they need that kind of stuff, and they are leveraging the relationship that ham radio operators have had for decades, if not a century, in supporting emergencies via the radio waves. And it's still radio waves, it's just bigger, higher frequency and digital type of traffic.
So I just pulled up the map here, Jim.
Yeah, there you go. That's the one.
And it looks like in most of your larger cities, there's a pretty big following of this already. You can see in the San Francisco Bay Area, in the LA area, clear up into the Portland area, Washington, the greater Seattle area is all pretty packed full of people operating on this already.
Hey, Nick, I'm just curious, could you scroll deeper into the San Francisco Bay Area, like roughly where I'm at? I'm just curious who does it around me.
Yeah, every screen scroll that I try to do is freezing it.
The link is
gotta load all of them.
The link's in the chat, Connor. You can DIY.
Okay, sorry about that. I didn't see it. Yeah, I'll look. Let's see if there's anybody. I'll tell you if there's anybody, because I've heard about this, but I don't really know anybody who's done it. There is one in the there's somebody that runs it. Oh, and I know exactly who runs it. And actually, we were talking about this on field day. It's a good friend of mine who runs it.
So it looks like Vacaville is got a connection. Now, are these links are they, once you've got the connection established, is it available for anybody with a call sign to use, or is it do you have to get acceptance from that person to link into the network through their equipment.
So I haven't gotten that far on figuring it out yet. But you could point your antenna because what's his nuggets ham radio crash course guy. He did that. He just lit one up and he pointed. There was one up on some hill somewhere, like 20 miles away from him, and he linked into it. And so he didn't talk to anybody or anything like that, and he pointed it to a different one and linked into that one. So I think you can pretty much just link into it and get on. It's kind of open sourcey, public domain kind of a thing.
All right, Jim. Well, when you get your stuff set up, go point and shoot and tell us what happens. And if you get thrown in jail for some other reason, well, you're on your own, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, well, so you're not going to bail me out? Come on, brother.
It looks like the primary band of operation is 5.8 gig.
Yeah.
A lot of people on 2.4 and 5.8. So those are your most common ones, because looks like 900 is slim to none in the Bay Area, maybe one or two. 2.4 is popping, but 5.8, which is that's your 5 gigahertz band, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see any 3.4.
No.
But you bring up a good point, though. Like, what's the etiquette? Like, so you get all this stuff, and then just point it and connect, and like that's a phase 2 conversation.
No, you're right, though.
You
point to a node and you get onto the mesh, and then you have to have an application or something on your computer somewhere, so that, like, say you want to do the chat thing, so you go get that mesh chat application, download it onto your laptop or whatever, and then you can start chatting. I don't know how to use it. They got IRC on there, Internet Relay Chat, even. So, which is the old, one of the old chat mechanisms on the internet. So,
and what you said, Jim, this is no internet. This is, well, it could be, but this could technically be you're just pointing and connecting directly at the other device, right?
Right. And then you're getting onto that mesh. And then if you want to do the chat, then the chat program, I'm sure you have to point it to somebody's got to be running a chat server somewhere, just like the VoIP stuff. You can have a little Cisco VoIP phone hooked up to your Ethernet port and have that. Well, it has to know where to go get my PBX signal from, where do I get my phone signal from, and stuff like that. So there is configuration stuff, and that's why I didn't dive into that whole section of menus, because you just start going down, because you do need all that information. I think if you want to parallel it to something, it's like all these different types of digital modes that we have now, right? We got the YSF and the D star and the All Star and the Hoopty star and the Doopty star, and I don't know. Everything is just a bunch of stars to me at this point. I get confused, and then I get that look in my face like, I don't know what you're talking about, because I don't have any of that stuff, right? I don't have a DMR thing, or the MM.
We need to get Jim on the DMR thing. Yeah. We need to get Jim on the DMR thing, guys.
Give me on the DMR thing.
DMR thing.
Well, them guys down there, Bridgecom, they out in Missouri, so we can talk to them. But sorry. It just happens. It just happens.
It just flows. It just flows. Yeah.
Exactly. But so as far as all the configured, just like all that stuff has to be configured, right? It's the same thing. So whatever application or services you're going to use, you just have to have the right applications or software on your computer and configure it accordingly, and then you're off and running.
I think I've got enough microwave parabolic dishes up on my roof already. Let's see what's not active, because I actually do have one of the ones that you were talking about. I do have, actually, I think it was the one that Nick, you brought up on stream.
Yeah, what? You got to make sure it's exactly the right model, though. That's the thing.
I believe I have that exact one.
Yeah, very specific. But you can look on that chart of all the different systems that's been tested and works, and if it's one of those, you're halfway there already.
That's really cool. Yeah, so I had to disappear for a little bit, so if I'm not mistaken, there's no, it's not like meant to link for repeaters or anything like that. It's just purely for emergency communications, like texting and VoIP and stuff like that, correct?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, it is a really cool thing to have set up. In fact,
Yeah.
a lot of people, it's kind of, it's a little bit off topic, but it's a guy I know in the UK has built up a massive point-to-point wireless ISP company, and in an event like kind of like a disaster, I guess you could say. Of course, he's connected to everybody,
Sure.
all of his clients and stuff like that. So it is pretty cool to have that, I guess, RDEN, right? I guess it's just pretty much a big point-to-point LAN network. So it is pretty cool because is there any patch to the internet, or is it all decentralized?
Some people do have internet connections that are available that you can get to. So if you don't have an internet connection, but you have your mesh connection, you can get over to those. So,
I think the big,
it's totally independent of the internet if you want it to be good. Like the community network that I would like to set up is just, in the area, and I don't care about too
no
much
exposure.
Maybe have the chat application available and the some other things like that. But that's
really cool
in the mesh. Yeah, it is really cool. I like the idea of it, and I'm not much of a digital guy when it comes to amateur radio stuff, but this is something that does interest me.
Yeah, it almost is funny that you brought this up as I was showing the Ubiquity link stuff earlier.
Yeah,
I didn't even, I heard about this system on field day from a buddy of mine. He's trying to set up a big thing here in San Mateo County. He's trying to get a lot of people onto it. And as I look, a few of them that I know the group that I was talking to on field day have gone through and actually done it, looking at that map. That's pretty crazy because most people are like, oh yeah, I'll check it out. And then, nothing ever comes of it, But
Right.
for $80, really, you can get into it. Which is the really cool part about that whole system. And I think it is helpful. With those type of services, you could even, just with the point-to-point LAN network, you could set up ways to, link actual radios to it and have, radio over IP, just point-to-point, no repeaters. But that's how people link repeaters. I don't know if a lot of people in here knowledgeable about that type of stuff. A lot of people actually just use Ubiquity gears with LAN networks to hook up their repeaters in mass link networks, because it's much more reliable than the internet, because then you got to have like something like a PBX phone server or something like that where everybody can connect in, or all the repeaters can connect to.
The internet, you got to have an ISP to connect to. You got to have your AT&T Verizon connection. That's a big barrier to a lot of this stuff.
Especially if they go down. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And if you have point to point.
Right. The other thing I wanted to mention was earlier you were showing the AirLink website.
Yeah.
And you were showing where you showed the two antennas, and that's what you use to, when you find a link that you want to point to, you just use that and you say, here's my antenna and here's how high it is right at my house, and I want it to go to there, and it will show you that beam and then show you the terrain, and if there's anything in the way of it at all, it'll tell you that your signal's blocked, and so you can't get to that one, right? Unless I'm almost tempted to say, let me throw this on stream, because
the cool thing about Ubiquity's AirLink system is, what do you call it? You can actually use it for ham radio, because you can, yes, there is things like coverage maps, but if you actually want to see, hey, what's my shot to this repeater? I'm gonna throw it up on stream here just because I can. So for people looking here, let me pull the one that I did to Mount Vaca. Give me 1 second.
Yeah,
hold on.
That's cool. That's a perfect example.
So I'm gonna share this right now. Hopefully it's on stream. I don't know,
Yep.
Nick, is this showing on live?
It's up there.
Okay. So basically this is from my my site, and it's the exact antenna height is it's roughly 5 to 6 feet off, but that it doesn't matter. And then there's Mount Vaca at one of the lower points of Mount Vaca. And you can see here that there is a little bit of terrain at, you know, not too high, but you can use this for ham radio. You just plop it down on your house, and then, you know, if your antenna's on your roof, put the height as whatever the equivalent of like 20 feet or 15 feet is. And if you know where the repeater exactly is located, just point to it, and you can see, hey, why is my signal so scratchy? And you can see if there's earth in the way. And that's actually, this is the same tool I used with VVR. I put this on my house, and actually these mountains right here block my shot to VVR, but it, as you can see, that's also because I'm much lower. I'm only at 10 feet of elevation above sea level.
That's probably, that little bump there is probably part of Mount Diablo.
Yeah, this is part. Yes, this is. Is this part of Mount Diablo right here?
To the right where it says Walnut Creek, that's Mount Diablo.
So whatever this
no.
mountain range is, the Oakland area mountain range. I forget the name of it, but yeah, that's what's blocking my shot. From my house.
To the right. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
it's
this
like
is Mount
Oakland
Diablo.
Hills. Yeah.
Yeah, like Oakland Hills area, Piedmont, stuff like that, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And
yeah,
and that blocks my shot. But then you move up. You know, it's funny because you look how low this is. But this is 274 meters, which is like 900-ish feet, which is where my site's located. Right. So, but I know if I drop this down to nothing, these hills would be in the way, you know. So it's a really useful tool for ham radio, or if you actually want to get into this this point-to-point networking stuff, it's definitely a cool tool because it gives you land maps and tells you what's in the way. It's really also helpful to, if you're setting up a repeater, go, you know, north, east, south, and west and see what's in the way, and then draw other lines from there. So that's my 2 cents on it.
That's cool. Yeah, thanks for throwing that up there, because that is a useful tool, not only for the Aredn stuff, but anytime you're trying to point an antenna, particularly if it's a directional one. See what's in the way. Cool.
That was pretty much my spiel with that.
All right. Okay, well, I think we've Aredn netted ourselves to death. Hey, Will, how you doing, man?
Gonna blow you away with a new mic. Do you guys hear me?
Yeah, you sound good.
Sounds good. That's good. Very crisp.
Yeah. So
crispy.
I was actually picked up a Blue Yeti.
I see the box behind you.
Yeah. So
that's what I've got.
At first, I guess there were bad USB cables because I tried 2 USB, micro USB cables, and they must have been, I don't know, I've never seen this, but they just had like 2 leads maybe inside for charging only.
Oh.
I don't know. So finally this thing, a lot of these have, I guess the older USB had trouble. A lot of people
mini USB. I'll actually, if you don't mind, I'll throw in on that. I have the original Blue Yeti that runs off of mini USB, which is the fatter version of micro USB, and it that actually, if I tap my microphone hard enough, which I did it tonight, it actually disconnects. It's a problem with the connector on the microphone. But the newer versions all are, I believe, micro USB. And the only drawback to micro USB is if you don't have like I have mine on a shock mount, so I don't ever touch the cable. But for people who have it like laying across a desk, your worst thing that you can do is accidentally move your microphone and break off that connector, because it's so thin and flimsy. But they're great microphones. Otherwise, I mean, there's 0 flaws with mine. You know, I've still got the.
This is the Nano, and
I saw that.
Actually, it's believe it or not, it was in the case at a Goodwill for $30.99. Had a 25% off coupon. It was like whatever it is, $25.
That's so worth it.
Jeez, that's a steal.
I mean, man. I talked to customer service, and they're like, "Oh, powered you need a powered USB hub and all this stuff. So I got my third cable, third time a charm, and it worked. So I'm pretty happy.
That's a good steal, man. Yeah, those places are nice. We don't have any open around me. I used to go in there all the time and find, people were not throwing away, but getting rid of like shortwave radios and stuff like that. It's a great place to go.
I went to a place, they had a really nice HF radio. It was St. Vincent's de Paul, and but they wanted like $600 for the radio. I'm like, nah, I don't think. Oh
yeah.
This was the same trip. It wasn't Goodwill. That's across the street. It was Salvation Army. It was like $25. So
yeah, those are always great. I typically, if I drive by a house and they're having a garage sale, I can normally kind of gauge what the type of stuff they've got going on. But ones that I never stop at garage sales unless I see antennas on the roof of the house, because that's where you find stuff like a CW key or.
But what if the antenna's for sale in the garage sale and it's laying on a bench?
Well, then I guess I missed it. Yeah, it's one of the guys in our neighborhood. He went silent key, and they the kids sold the house, and they didn't take the antennas down. So the guy, he's not even a block away from me, and he's got. And I think this was before I was born, but this guy's, it's an antenna farm on his roof. It's more than what I've got going on, and they sold the house, and the current tenants the current owners or whatever the situation is, I guess just nobody's ever cared enough to go up there and take them down. It's pretty crazy, because most of the time you'd think you can't sell a house with that.
Huh? Can I help you take that stuff down?
Yeah, well, this guy he's got those roof mounts that are, I don't know how it's survived as long as it is. It's one of those tripods that's just got weights on each feet, and then he's got it guide off to each end of the house. I don't know how it survived 17. I believe it might have even been long, because I'm 17. It might have even been longer than 17 years. I don't know how it survived that long. Typically, that's kind of more of a temporary install.
Right.
That's how I see that. So I find it crazy that it's still standing, and it's not a small thing. It's like a 30-foot pole connected to this tripod, and it's guide off at its bottom point, its midpoint, and its top point. And it's got a 1.2 gigahertz Yagi, or whatever the ham band is that's in that area. Yeah, it's just got one of those, 1.2 gig. It's just got a Yagi on there, just tiny little thing. So. It's pretty cool, but I mean, geez, what an install.
No kidding.
It's the way to go, though, with all these flat-topped houses up here in my area.
That's right. Yeah,
because
over there are like that.
Yeah, my house is 2 stories, but it's not a living space on the second story. It's more considered as a loft. So, and that was only on the front half of the house that was remodeled. So for me, it's kind of like for my HF antenna, I'm kind of lucky, but I won't ever be allowed to do it. I could actually go from the peak of the roof where I already have an eyelet and run a wire to each fence, right, and have an inverted V. Problem is, wire hangs over the backyard there. I don't think the parents would want to walk by and just get clotheslined by a old piece of wire. So that's out the window.
Oh well.
Yeah, but those microwave things, you go anywhere, you'll see those exact type of microwave installs. Not necessarily for the ham side of stuff, but you'll see those everywhere. I mean, it's if we think that in the Bay Area specifically, 2 meter and 440 repeaters, that the repeater area is crowded. I mean, imagine the microwave stuff in the Bay Area. That's even more crowded, which is funny.
Top of every building, all that stuff is all over. It's everywhere.
Yeah, And I mean, people. That's why people go either up in frequency or go down. People go to 40 gigahertz and the equipment's more expensive, but the band isn't as crowded. Or people go to 900 where nobody goes on 900 because
Right.